Welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Gene. This is my good buddy Sam. We are NHL Aftermath. I hope you guys have been enjoying your last couple of weeks. A lot of stuff to talk about tonight, Sammy. A lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of good stuff, but unfortunately, we're going to kick it off with some horrible stuff. But before we do that, how have you been? How's your week? How's life? How's mom? How's dad? How's uncle? How's aunt? How's your grandma? How's everyone?
Everyone's good. Parents are sick right now, so I'm expecting to get that cold here sooner or later, probably. Other than that, things been good. Work's been good. Work's been crazy busy as always. You know how it is with our company; it doesn't stop. um,
Oh, I know.
but it's been good. It's been good overall. You know, been a good week. So I hope yours has been good as well.
Mine, well, okay, so I've been dealing with a bit of a sciatic nerve issue. So I went to
Oh,
physio yesterday, and apparently I got a little bit of mild arthritis in my back,
oh,
which is never a good thing.
oh,
But it's feeling a lot better today. They gave me some exercises to do, and I've been working at it. And actually, I'm supposed to just do it on a hard surface on the floor and kind of do this abdominal kind of push out where my back kind of sits flush to the ground and kind of breathe in and breathe out. But I did it in my bathtub today. I had a hot
okay,
bath with Epsom salts and all that kind of stuff, and it feels great right now. So that's a good sign. That's
good.
a really good sign. And then I was coming down with something, but I did have to take a few days off, and it kind of sucks, especially when you're paying a mortgage. You want to try to get as much money in as possible.
Oh
But
yeah,
other
for
than
sure.
that, I'm not complaining. Life is good. Uh, the Oilers are doing amazing. The Canucks are doing amazing. So as far as our favorite teams going, I think we have nothing to complain about. And if we do, oof, we got some problems to talk about.
Yeah, fair enough. For sure,
All
definitely.
right, so Sammy, on Wednesday, what was it? Wednesday morning, I was going for my break, and I looked at my phone and I got a text message from you, and you're the one that
Mm,
actually broke the news to me of of some disturbing news coming out of Hockey Canada again that was supposed to be laid to rest, but was reopened by the London Police Department.
mm-hmm.
And so before I get into this, the following story deals with sexual assault and may trigger some viewers. So just a heads up for you guys there, as what we get into is a very sensitive subject. In regards to that, if you know somebody that is going through this in Canada, please call 1-866-925-4419. That's 1-866-925-4419. If you're in the States, I'm sure they can direct you to the appropriate affiliates if you know somebody that is going through this kind of stuff. Um, okay, let's dive into this. This may take a bit. I'm gonna try to get you to your Canucks game for 7 o'clock, but we are probably gonna have a good, thorough conversation on this for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me get that one banner off there. Okay, so in April of 22, a woman filed a lawsuit against Hockey Canada, the Canadian Hockey League, and on 8 unnamed CHL players, stating she was sexually assaulted in London, Ontario hotel room on June of 2018 following a Hockey Canada event. So this is kind of a little back history of what happened. The 5 members of Canada's 2018 World Junior team are alleged to have sexually assaulted the woman in the hotel room in Ontario. Uh, and they have been told to surrender to London police by an unconfirmed time. We don't know the time that they want to confirm. Um, I want to make it very clear that what we are talking about today, we are not accusing anybody. We're just kind of pinpointing the dots of, or not pinpointing the dots, but there's a very there's a very
There's a number of coincidences and puzzle pieces that have kind of
yes,
fallen into
yes,
place
there's a
so
lot of
that
coincidences referring to this that happened this week that make you
Mhm.
start connecting dots and potentials, right? But
Yeah.
no one here has been accused yet. We're going to get more information as they are going to hold a press conference on Monday, May 5th, regarding
February
this.
5th.
Yeah, yes, February 5th. Sorry, Sam.
All good.
And then we'll know more. Now, some of the players that are involved in this, as you can see, they're also on the
Mhm.
screen there.
Again, not confirmed a part of the situation, but
Again,
these are the
yes,
ones that are coincidentally in a very interesting situation
yes.
right now.
These are ones that took a leave of absence from their clubs this
Yep.
week, shortly after this news broke. Okay.
Yep.
And they are Dylan Dubé, Carter Hart, Alex Formente, Michael McLeod, and Cal Foote of the New Jersey Devils. And again, you're the one that broke it to me, and I did. They all requested leave of absences.
Mhm.
Dylan Dubé on the 21st requested it for mental health reasons. Carter Hart was just granted a leave of absence on January 23rd. Alex Fermentation was granted a leave of absence from his Swiss Hockey League team on January 24th.
Mhm.
Michael McLeod and Cal McLeod were both given indefinite leave of absences. Okay. And this is
Mhm.
all kind of in the same time frame. So,
Yep. Now, Dylan Dubé and Carter Hart were granted their absences um, before London police released this statement. They were granted their absences
correct.
before. Michael McLeod, Cal Foote, and Alex Formenton were the same day, I believe, as the statement, or the day before. But it was like, thinnest of margins of when it happened. And now, of course, nothing's confirmed, and we won't know anything officially until February 5th. But it's way too coincidental, right?
It
Now,
is.
again, we don't want to make the accusation,
No, and we're
right?
not.
That's not, and we're not.
And
The timing of it,
we also urge the public out there
exactly,
not to do. We already seen enough damaging stuff that happened
exactly,
with the whole Connor Bedard thing a few months back.
exactly. Now, it's extremely coincidental. 5 players from that team happened to take absences within a couple days of each other at the time of the statement being released. It could be a coincidence. It could be. It absolutely could be. But it's too perfect of timing. The
Yeah.
timing is too perfect. There's just some things that happen in life that you look at and you're like, things have just melded together too well.
Hmm.
And this is one of those situations. And the whole situation is just unfortunate. And it's sad. And it casts a bad light on Hockey Canada. And Hockey Canada has been under fire for a few years since the story first broke. They've been under fire for a few years. They fired all of their heads of the organization. They fired like their entire board of directors. Like they got rid of everyone from the
Hmm.
organization because, allegedly they had covered it up. They knew about it. They covered it up and got rid of it. And when that all happened, the NHL, the heads of the National Hockey League, conducted their own investigation on it. I think the NHLPA did their own investigation. London Police Department did their own investigation. And they've all come together now. And I think the conclusion on who's involved and when and whatever has finally come together. And that's why the police have said, we're giving you this chance to bring yourselves in. And oftentimes, police will do that if they know who's at fault. They'll reach out to them themselves and say, hey, you have an opportunity to bring yourself in, or we will come to you. And nobody wants that. Nobody wants to have the police show up and take them away wherever they are. So they're giving them an opportunity just to be honest and to do the
To do
right
the right
thing
thing.
in
Yeah.
the midst of them having done a terrible thing.
So, and now probably a lot of people thought this was swept under the carpet as there was a lawsuit. Now, the alleged victim of this is known as EM.
Mm-hmm.
Filed a lawsuit against Hockey Canada and 8 unnamed players. So there was 8 unnamed
Yep.
players that the lawsuit was initially, but there's only 5 that have been asked to turn themselves into London police.
Probably the only 5 they could actually confirm.
Yeah. And there was the lawsuit paid out 3.55 million in damages. And yeah, everyone thought it was all done and over with, but then the London Police Department reopened the case. I don't know exactly when they did. Rightfully so. I mean, okay, what
It
you
was
just you
it
pay
was
off
2 years
sexual
ago.
assault? Yeah, like you can't just pay off sexual assault. It's got to be
Yeah.
dealt with in the proper accordance, right?
Yeah. Because
So
the
players,
incident happened. I think the incident happened in June of 2018. It was at some sort of awards gala. If the article that I read is correct, it was at some sort of gala in June
okay,
of 2018. Is what I read.
okay, so it didn't
Um,
happen during the tournament.
no, this is what I read at
Okay,
some. I don't remember. I don't know if it was the Globe and Mail or whatever, but the article said it was June of 2018. I believe at some sort of
okay,
Met gala. Um, the woman went to the hospital and the police the next day to get tested and et cetera, and to explain the situation. And the police began investigation then and closed it quickly thereafter, citing that there wasn't enough evidence. And then a couple years, well, 4 years later, in 2022, she filed a lawsuit, and so London Police Department had to reopen
hmm
the investigation and decided to reopen the investigation. And now we're here. 2 years later, the National Hockey League has done their investigation. London Police have done their investigation. Hockey Canada, etc., have done their investigations. And like I said before, their investigations are closed. And by closed, I don't mean like, case is over. Like they've finished their
so publicly
investigation.
known.
The information is known, and now it's time to bring the guilty parties forward and to begin the reconciliation and rectification,
Yeah.
rectifying whatever of the situation.
So some of the circumstances, and you're correct, it was June of 2018. I just have it here pulled up. Some of the circumstances is there was one of the parties was involved. There was consensual sex was like was part of it, but it turned into a much more bigger item. I don't know which player they met
Yeah,
with, and they're like, okay, well, let's and it led into
they started inviting people to the room,
yes, it led
and
into
she wasn't okay with that.
no, she wasn't, and she does not remember being videotaped, and apparently there was videos of it and stuff. So there was again. I'm not saying that this is factual information. I am just stating that the reports I've been hearing from the Globe and Mail and that is kind of
Yep.
where we're at with this. Uh, whew. Like some of the names there, Sammy, other than the names that are really among the immediate, like Dylan Dubé, Carter Hart, Michael McLeod, Cal Foot, but Cale McCarr was on that team.
Braden Point,
Brendan Point. Who else was on that team? Tyler
a
Radish.
lot.
Yeah.
That
Was
2018
it
team
Brendan
was
Point or
stacked.
Colton Point? Colton Point, I got here.
Braden Point on the Tampa Bay Lightning was on that team, I believe.
Was it Braden?
Not Mason McTavish. Yona Gadjevich was on that team.
Yeah.
Um,
Jordan
there
Kyler,
were,
Jake
yeah,
Bean.
that team was stacked.
Yeah.
That team was
Yeah.
stacked, and it's unfortunate. And I don't want to say like it's unfortunate to be like, oh, I'm sad that these players did. I am sad these players did this, but my heart is fully with the victim of the
Yeah.
situation.
Oh,
Like
for sure.
if these
For sure.
players did what they did,
But
they
it's
deserve
such
they
an
deserve
Yeah.
It's a fine line, but they deserve whatever maximum sentence they can get.
Oh,
And
for sure.
my own person, like
If
just my own personal thoughts
deemed
on things
guilty.
and my
If
own
deemed
personal
guilty.
feelings on things, I have no tolerance for stuff like this at all.
No, no.
And
And it's,
just as another point for us here in Kelowna, Dylan Dubé and Cal Foote both played for the Kelowna Rockets.
yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's going, if they confirm that they are, if those two are guilty, I don't know if that then has fallback on the Rockets as an organization. And the other three players, whatever their junior clubs were, if that'll have fallout on them. But since we live in Kelowna, I'm just bringing them up specifically.
Yeah.
As well, in the arena here in Prospera Place in downtown Kelowna, they have murals of some of the best players that have ever played on that team. Like that mural has Leon Draisaitl, has Duncan Keith, Shea
Mhm.
Weber, um, Tyler Myers, I think, Alex. Like it has a number of players because this organization has pumped out ridiculous talent. Jamie Benn, um, Cal Foot's on that wall, and I think Dylan Dubé's on that wall too.
Hmm.
Now, if these two are guilty, do they figure out? Do they strip those murals?
Oh, they'll have to.
I
They'll
would.
have
I
to.
would hope so.
Yeah, they have to. You're trying to sell a product. You're still trying to sell a product, and you have a product of criminals on
Mhm.
your wall. That's not going to
And
really sell your product.
and realistically, might be slightly biased, but the Rockets organization is one of the I think one of the top real pristine organizations in the Canadian Hockey League for teams that have pumped out NHL talent over the years. They've been one of the most consistent. It's like Kelowna,
Yeah,
the London Knights, like Halifax
yeah,
Mooseheads. Those have been some of like the most consistent teams that have pumped out talent.
yeah,
Kamloops as well. Just a couple hours down the road, they've pumped out crazy talent.
yeah.
And so I just wonder if the situation will have fallback on the junior organizations that these players played for. I can't remember what teams McLeod played for or Carter Hart. Well, Carter Hart played for the Everett Silvertips, I think, in the Western Hockey League as well. But McLeod, I don't know. Um, I don't know about him, but and Alex Formanton, I can't remember who he played for either, but this is going to have a fallback on Everett and on Kelowna for their
I think
players and the other
Wilmington
two
was in the
organizations.
NHL, if I recall, but I could be wrong on
Yeah,
that.
but for at least for the Rockets and for the Silvertips,
Yeah,
is there going to be something fall back on them? And do those organizations then get investigated as well for, hey, did you know about this
yeah.
too? Like,
No,
did you know about this at the time? That's just my thinking. Is that going to be a thing
yeah.
that happens? It could be.
Well, who knows? Or like we can also look at the NHL, how they handled it as they announced on that specific day that this announcement came out. And this is another thing that the NHL's taking heat from a little bit too, is they kind of went away from that, announcing that they want to maybe bring a team into Utah here,
To
into
Salt
Salt
Lake
Lake
City.
City.
Yeah.
And that was right on the day that this stuff broke. And I've watched a few YouTubers out there saying how this is a bad look for the NHL because they, you know, right away just, hey, let's talk about expansion. Let's not talk about this. We don't want to talk about that because it's not a good idea, right? And this is something that's been plaguing the NHL with Kyle Beach a few years ago and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Corey Perry earlier this year, which we don't know exactly what happened there, but obviously he was like everything's okay because he's now an Edmonton Oiler. And Gary Bettman gave him the green light to say, hey, sign wherever you want. And it could be just a fact that Kyle Davidson, the Blackhawks, not GM, the Blackhawks owner or CEO, I guess that's what he'd be, basically didn't want to dabble with anything because their tolerance level is, so we'll see. Anyway, yeah, we're going to get more information and we'll probably end up doing a follow-up on this in a few weeks once we find out on February 5th what is what.
After February 5th, we'll definitely have to talk about this, and that'll be post All-Star game as well.
Yeah, and then we could talk about the All-Star game, which,
Is whatever.
not well, we'll see. I think the All-Star game is going to be good this week. But anyway, let's try to go to a bit of a lighter subject here, Sammy.
Mm-hmm.
As Yeah, not good. Let's talk about those guys. And I hate to do this to you, Sam. I mean, it seems like every episode we're going to talk about the Oilers. And this is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be a designated NHL channel, but it just, the storylines continue with this team.
Yeah, you can't not talk about them right now. You know,
And I was like, I
and
got to at least bring Vancouver into the fold because Vancouver's playing extremely. And we will get into Vancouver later. But the Edmonton Oilers are rewriting history in several ways, Sammy. Grant
mm-hmm.
Fuhr's winning streak record was abolished by Stuart Skinner 2 nights ago, and now he's 2 games over his total as they won again. They won the 16th in a row today against the Nashville Predators. They are one away from tying the Pittsburgh Penguins record. They tied which surprises me, the Columbus Blue Jackets at 16. I never knew Columbus Blue Jackets had a streak
There
like
was back in that year, was it 2016, 2017? Columbus and Minnesota were both on, I think, 13 or 14 game winning streaks. Like they were on the same amount of winning. Like both have won 13 or 14 in a row, and they played each other. And so whoever won would continue their monumental winning streak, and then the other one, unfortunately, would lose. And I think that game, Columbus won that game. I think it was an overtime or a shootout, if my memory serves me correct. And it was like, that's crazy. That, like, and that was the first time in NHL history as well that two teams with like 13 plus game winning streaks would meet each other and play. It was the first time
that.
that ever
Who's
happened.
the other team? Is that
Minnesota.
Minnesota? Really?
Yeah, they were like a 13
I
or
have no
14 game streak
recollection
as
of
well.
this.
Yeah. I remember. I remember because it was crazy. It was crazy.
Wow, that is crazy. So, just some things of note here. Chris Knobloch is the first NHL coach in the history of the game to start his first, I think it was 25 games with 2 8-game winning streaks. It's never been done before, going back to the history of the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
They surpassed the Edmonton Oilers record of most wins in a row. I think that was at 9, if I remember correctly.
9 sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they got to 10, and now they're working and encroaching on. Well, then they got to 12, which tied the Canadian record. They surpassed that, which was by the Montreal Canadiens 67-68 team, a team that featured Jean Beliveau, Maurice the Rocket Richard, Gump Worsley, Claude Lemieux, I think, or Jacques Lemaire. Sorry, Jacques Lemaire. Just like legends, and they surpassed the Canadian franchise team, and now are 1 game away. And unfortunately, they go on this All-Star hiatus, so we have to wait a week and a half to find out if they're actually going to tie the record. And yeah, things are rolling really good. And then they signed Corey Perry earlier this week, which he played his first game this afternoon as an Oiler, and he actually looked pretty good. He had his looks. He made a nice backhand pass to Dylan Holloway, but Dylan Holloway wasn't expecting it, so it kind of led to nothing. But I think what he brings to the table is it's gonna be interesting to see. Yeah. I'm like I do the channel on Lubed. I'm just like every day I'm like I'm mind blown by what I'm witnessing here. This season is literally since the 80s, Sam, the
Mm-hmm.
most intriguing NHL season for the Edmonton Oilers that I've witnessed.
I mean I'm not surprised. I like this is the most intriguing NHL season in general that I've watched in my time of watching hockey, which has been about 14 years since I've really started paying attention to the National Hockey League. The whole season in general has been the most intriguing season that I've witnessed. Like the storylines that have come out of this year, both positive and negative, have been monumental. The streaks that teams have gone on, the teams that are playing good and bad that are unexpected is just insane. The start some teams had where they had great starts, fell off, or had bad starts and then rose, like Edmonton, having a
Mhm.
terrible start and then going off crazy to be this good. Anaheim had an amazing start, and now they're one of the bottom feeders in the league, too. Vancouver somehow being remarkably consistent and incredible the whole season has been unbelievable. Boston being as good as they are
That's what I was about to
was,
say.
yeah, the Bruins, them playing as well as they have has been surprising for a lot of people. Florida being as good as they are this year has surprised a lot of people.
Pittsburgh not?
Pittsburgh, not really. I think a lot of people expected them to be better
Well, with
than they
Carlson.
are. They're pretty middle ground right now. They could make the playoffs. They could not. We'll see. Um, I mean, San Jose losing their first 11 games, that was surprising. We knew they
Mhm.
were going to be bad, but that bad? I don't know. Columbus being as bad as they are this year was also surprising. A lot of people were picking them to be on the cusp of the playoffs again. Philadelphia being in a playoff spot.
Let's
Granted, they've lost 5 in a row.
let's tail back to Columbus though.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because honestly, I had this discussion with one of my coworkers about Johnny Gaudreau.
Right.
He's brutal. He's not very effective in Columbus, and now they're stuck with that
No.
contract. I think both parties made a massive mistake. They signed him, which is a massive mistake, and his mistake was leaving Calgary where he was flourishing.
Leaving Calgary and or not signing with other organizations that are trying to sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Like New Jersey offered him money, and I think he's from New Jersey. New Jersey offered him more money than the Blue Jackets did, and he turned it down to go play in Columbus, which I was like, why? Why wouldn't you go play? Why wouldn't you want to play for your hometown team? Isn't that a
I
dream?
think
Isn't
he
that the
stated in an
dream?
interview that I think he stated in an interview he still wanted to distance himself from his family a little bit, but still be close to his family. He didn't necessarily
I
want
guess
family distractions all the time. So
maybe. To me that's weird.
no, it
Like
is.
if I was a hockey player and an NHL player, and if I'm playing just for the sake of it, Calgary's on the opposite side of the country from New Jersey. So that'd be like me, if I'm in the NHL, my favorite team that I grew up playing or watching was the Canucks. That'd be like me playing in, I don't know, Detroit, I guess, or something, or Washington, right? Kind of on the opposite side of the continent from your hometown. And if I played there for a number of years, I mean, but like, I don't know, it's the situation is like, I'm done here. And if the Canucks offered me, you know, $9-10 million, if honestly, if Vancouver offered me $1 million because of my hometown team, I'm probably going, okay. But especially if they're offering more than anybody else is offering me, I'm going to play for my hometown team. That to
Honestly,
me is just
Sam, I
like
think if you're putting that,
mind blowing.
I think if you're put in that position, though, you become accustomed to a different lifestyle too.
Also
So,
true, also true. But it's just like
so
it's mind blowing to
you're
me.
like now losing 60% or 50% of your wage now of what you're getting. You know what I mean?
I mean, fair, but still,
If not
like
more.
I don't know if your hometown team is offering you more money, it's just crazy to me
Well,
that
here's
you
the
wouldn't go
thing.
play for them.
Here's the thing. There's two factors that most NHL players will sign to a team for. One is for the amount of money that they're going to get paid. That's
Yeah,
usually number one. And two, are they a contender? Jersey has both of those. Was offering
well,
both of
yeah,
those,
that too.
right?
Columbus is not even remotely.
Columbus is not. No, Columbus is yeah. Anyway, Sammy, your game is starting pretty quick here, so we're gonna have to try to speed things up a little bit here.
And we've got a couple
And,
anthems to go through, so we got probably about another 10 minutes.
we're gonna talk about what are we talking about? The top three dogs in each division. Um, And this graphic that I'm going to show you was actually posted earlier this morning. There may have been subtle changes, but uh, right now, the top three dogs in each division. We're going to start with the I believe it's the Metro. I could be wrong on that, but we'll see here. Yes. No, it's the Atlantic. So you got the Bruins. Um, you got the Bruins, you got the Panthers, and you got the Lightning. And I don't have the stats up there, and I can't see the actual points. So if you can see those points and read them out to me, that
Yep.
would be awesome.
So Boston Bruins in first place with 30. I believe it's 31 wins now because they won today. 31 9-9 record for 71 points. So they're first in the NHL right now currently.
Crazy. That's another crazy
They
story.
jumped over Vancouver.
Yeah.
Florida with a 30-14-4 record for 64 points. So not too much of a spread there between the two of them, but enough distance for sure. Both same amount of games played, so it's not like Florida's got an advantage there. And the Tampa Bay Lightning with a 26-18-5 record for 57 points.
Yeah. So I could kind of see. We both were kind of surprised by Boston Bruins, how with Patrice Bergeron retiring and how the center depth looked going into the year. We both, when we did our analysis of what we predicted, we both had them pretty far up the standings. I think you even had them further up the standings than I did.
Yeah, I
Uh,
had them falling pretty far out.
yeah, which kind of surprised me. I think I had them ranked fourth. I didn't think they would fall that much, but look at how they're doing. They are doing stupidly amazing, which is
Yeah,
awesome. And I guess that's good leadership on Marchand, right? He's the captain now. He
yeah.
really took the bull by the horns and learned a lot from Patrice Bergeron, right?
I know
All
my dad
right.
because he's a Bruins fan, so
In the Metro Division, you got the Rangers, you got the Hurricanes, and you got the Philadelphia Flyers. That's
yeah,
another one that I have to. That's another one I'm like, but now here's the thing. If Carter Hart doesn't return to the lineup, how does that affect the Philadelphia Flyers?
you know, obviously he's been very good this year, for sure. But Sam Ersson, who's their backup, has been honestly equally as good. And now he is their bona fide starter. And if, of course, the allegations are true, he will be their starter, just period, going forward.
Yeah.
Which gives you your backup of Cal Peterson, I think. Which he had a really good year in LA that one year. They signed him to like a $6 million per year contract, and then he decided he wanted to be like an ECHL goalie and was absolutely terrible.
Mhm.
And Philadelphia's lost 5 in a row currently. They've lost 5 in a row. So
So they're starting to
is that
slip.
a losing streak that they can quickly turn around and get back going again? Have a little streak here, winning streak, positive streak, or is that a side of what
Could
and
be a
who
sign of
they are?
distraction too, because there is a lot
Or
of
sign of
distraction.
distraction, but it is it a sign of who they
How's
actually are?
Jersey doing? Has Jersey been, because they have two players off that team that have been taking a leave of absence
Jersey's
as late.
not far behind Philly in the standings, and neither Cal Foote nor Michael McLeod were really difference makers on that team, so I don't think
Okay,
it's
but I
too
guess
much.
my question is
But
have they started a
the
losing streak because of the
I
losing
don't
streak?
think so. I
Okay.
don't think so. Um, like I said, neither of them are really big difference makers on that team, so I
No.
don't think has really affected them that much. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the Rangers, they're first place with a 29-16-3 record, 61 points. Carolina Hurricanes, a 27-15-5 record, 59 points. And the Philadelphia Flyers, 25-18-6 record with 56 points. So there's not a huge spread in that division right now between first and third. What is that? 5 points between first and third place right now in that division, which is crazy. I thought the Rangers would have been much higher and the Hurricanes much higher up. And Philadelphia being that close is just, I don't get it. I don't expect them to be third by the time the season ends. I do expect Jersey to get better, but Jersey needs a goalie if they're going to
Mhm.
get back into the top.
Back into the top, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And who knows, maybe they'll fluke it off with what the Edmonton Oilers have been doing with Skinner and Picard.
No.
Like that's also the other story I never really talked about. But Picard has been really good too, as he got a shutout the other.
Calvin Pickard is their backup.
Yes, yes, and he got a shutout.
Okay, well, good for him.
That's the way it is.
Good
That's the
for
way it
him.
is. All right, let's go to the Central as another Canadian team is lighting it up in the Winnipeg Jets. They're having just an amazing year. This is a team. This is a good feel story because this team was called out by their coach after last year's playoffs, saying that they didn't play with heart, they didn't play with passion, they didn't, and he really threw them under the bus after that playoff series, and
Yeah.
he was almost vibrating. He was that angry. Then there was talks that Shifley wasn't going to re-sign. They had to move. They moved Wheeler to the Rangers. Hellebuck wasn't going to re-sign. It sounded like it was just all going to totally collapse.
Dubois wanted to leave,
Yeah, and he did leave.
and he did.
But then Shifley re-signed, and
Hellebuck
Hellebuck
resigned. They
re-signed,
both signed. I
and
think they were both 7-year, like
yeah,
$7.5 million contracts. Which $7.5 million is honestly insane for Hellebuck, who's a Vezina Trophy winning goalie. You can argue the best goalie in the NHL. Probably the Vezina winner this year between him and Demko, probably the
yeah,
two top runners. But I would, even as a Canucks fan, I'd put Hellebuck ahead of him right now.
yeah.
Um, and Shifley too. Like Shifley can put up a lot of points. So him 7.5 million like that. I think those are good deals for them. At least now, maybe towards the end of that
Yeah.
contract, they 7.5 might look like a lot, but I don't know. Winnipeg is they're a
It's a
surprise. I
united
definitely
group.
did not.
They're a united group. They're playing extremely well. I don't even know
I
what the
definitely did
score
not
is
have
in
them anywhere
Toronto.
near the playoffs. I didn't have them anywhere near the playoffs this year. Like I
Oh,
am dumbfounded that they're this close to the top of their division at all.
yeah, no kidding. I'm just trying to see what the score was because they are just they would have wrapped up because the Vancouver Canucks are playing right now, which we I just want to try to find out what the score was of that game here for the who won that game between Toronto. There we go. Toronto Maple
Close
Leafs
out that game earlier last
42.
week.
Yeah,
Toronto
42.
won. Toronto. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Toronto beat them 42. Okay,
Did they
let's
have
go
a
to the
home? Did they have a
Pacific
home and
Division.
home then?
This one was at Canada Life Center.
Yeah, they must have had a home and home because they played
Yeah,
each other
this was in Winnipeg
days
this
ago
year.
too.
I love Winnipeg's jerseys. If you get a chance to look at the highlights, their jerseys look pretty rad. They had these new jerseys.
Oh yeah, those are their thirds. I'm not a massive fan of them to be honest, but
I thought I was kind of surprised to see that. Anyway, Sammy, let's go into I was about to call it the Smythe division. So I guess
maybe 30 years ago.
yeah. Let's go to the Pacific Division where the Vancouver Canucks lead the way. You are ecstatic about this, and we're going to get your take on the Vancouver Canucks on the next subject here, as that's the next thing we're going to talk about. I'll just talk about what their schedule is, and then I'm going to basically let you run with it. The Vegas Golden Knights, who were called out by their coach just a couple days ago, saying they were a bunch of beer leaguers, and this was last year's Stanley Cup champions. I think they're a little bit better than beer leaguers if they're still second in the Pacific. Yeah, they're stumbling a little bit, but whatever. And then, again, the Edmonton Oilers, we already discussed that. We don't need to touch base on that. But they are starting to chase down Vegas. My take, I can almost predict, I can almost see this, that the first round in the playoffs is going to be Oilers in Vegas some way, somehow. I don't think Edmonton's going to catch Vancouver. I think they're either going to get home ice advantage against Vegas or Vegas is going to have home ice against us. Unless LA does some kind of
Goes on a heater
remarkable.
again. Yeah.
Yeah, but LA is like really starting to I don't know if there's gonna be a coaching change coming up there or not.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, or is this just a one off for them? Anyway, we're not talking about LA, we're talking about these three teams. Read out the standings there, Sam.
In first place, very happily, my Vancouver Canucks with a record of 32, 11, and 5 for 69 points and a goal differential. I don't usually talk about the goal differential, but a plus 58. That's well above
Oh,
the league lead. Like
smokes.
they've scored and they scored in bunches, which is crazy. They scored 181 goals on the season, which is astonishing. Vegas with a record of 29, 14, and 6, 64 points. 5 points behind Vancouver, but honestly, that 5 points kind of seems like a country mile to Vegas right now because of the way that both teams have been playing recently.
Mhm.
In Edmonton, by the utter grace of the Almighty, has risen to third place. Your Oilers, with a record of 28, I think 29, actually, because they won again. A record of 29, 15, and 1 for 57 points. And they actually have a goal differential now of plus 33, which is higher than Vegas's. And Vegas has been playing positively all year. So the fact that Edmonton went from this crazy negative goal differential to being plus
Yeah.
33 now is
I think they were negative 17 at one
unbelievable.
point in time in the season. I
Yeah,
think
it's
it was that.
unbelievable the
Mhm.
streak that they have been on. They have scored 156 goals and they've allowed 123, which is the exact same amount that Vancouver has allowed, actually, and 10 less than what Vegas has allowed. I don't know,
Yeah.
man. The Pacific.
It's a crazy year. It's a
um,
crazy year. This is I said this on Lubed the other day that this is going to be a season, and I'll say it for this channel. I'll say it with all aspects and all teams, with the teams that weren't supposed to be in there and the teams that are supposed to be in there, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the most memorable seasons that I think I've witnessed in the NHL since I've started watching hockey.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like I'm at a loss every day for words when I look at the standings and
Mhm.
or when I look at games and how some outcomes are going. I'm like, what is happening? How does
Yeah,
this league? How is this happening? How are these teams doing this? How I don't know. I
yeah.
don't know.
All right, Sammy. We're going to get into our last topic, and this is something that I think is near and dear to your heart. How do the Canucks continue to defy expectations? Coach Tocchet continues to hold the players at a high standard, and I think that's the reason. I want to get your
Yeah,
take. You're more thorough onto the Canucks situation and what they've been able to accomplish thus far. I'm just gonna go and quickly read off their schedule that is after the break, and then I'm gonna let you basically walk with it because this is your team. So after the break, they start on the road February 6th against the Hurricanes. Then they'll take on the Bruins on February 8th, the Red Wings on February 10th, the Capitals on February 11th. So a back-to-back situation there. On February 13th, they take on the Hawks. Then they head home on the 15th, take on the Wings. 17th, the Jets. Back on the road for a couple against the Wild and Avs and Kraken, and then back home on the 24th of February against the Bruins. So they play the Boston Bruins a couple times. Those are going
they
to be tough.
do.
It looks like a bit of a tough road ahead, but I'm not counting the Canucks out. Like from what I've all year, I'm waiting for them to do a misstep, and it's not happening. Like they're just running with it and playing phenomenal hockey. This is your lead, Sam. Yeah, stage is yours, bud.
I I honestly I just don't know what to say about this team. Um, they have defied every expectation that I had for them this year. I expected them to be a playoff team this year. I did. Some people thought I was crazy for saying that, but I was like, look, they barely missed the playoffs when Boudreaux took over. Barely. Like by 3 or 4 points, they missed the playoffs 2022. And then last year, they had a terrible start to the season, unfortunately. And then Tocchet came in and righted the ship. And the team, while they didn't just barely miss the playoffs, they looked very good. The second or the last 3 quarters of the season, they looked really good. Unfortunately, the ship was too far down and they didn't go on a 17-game winning streak like some other people's favorite teams did to get them back in the hunt. Um, but I was like, I don't, if they can play that way, which I know that they can, and if they get some help, defensively, some help on their bottom six forwards, I think that they have a real shot of being not a top team, but a playoff team. And this offseason, they went out and signed and or traded for people that I didn't expect. Like when they traded for Philip Hronik, I was like, okay. And I was like, is he that answer though? Is he that answer that we need? And he has been. He's been ridiculous. He's been way better than anybody would have expected. And then they signed Carson Soucy. That's a good one. Ian Cole, great depth defenseman. And they signed Teddy Bluger, great bottom six forward. They trade for Pia Suter, another great bottom six forward. They trade for Sam Lafferty. Again, same thing, a guy that can slot in your top six and has at times for Vancouver this year. He's a tough, physical, gritty guy, looks great. And then, to top it all off recently, they trade for Nikita Zadorov, who was a guy that a lot of teams were coveting and wanted. And Vancouver won that battle for him. And since then, like, this team, even though for the most part the roster is pretty much the same from last year, this team is completely different. Like, you can just see it in how they play. Everyone's confident. There's nights where, maybe somebody's confidence is off from night to night, but the team as a whole plays confidently. They play strong. Defensively, they are ridiculously sound. Goaltending has been phenomenal. Demko's been great. DeSmith has been great when he's needed to be. It's just, I don't know. It's a team that I see the possibility to win a cup. And it scares me to say that. It does, because I don't want to get my hopes up. And while at this point, like, my hopes,
dreams crushed.
I don't want my dreams to be crushed. And while my hopes are relatively high right now because of where they're at, I'm also still tempering those expectations. Because for the most part, this is an inexperienced playoff team. Like, you look at Vegas, the Vegas roster, they won a cup last year. That's as experienced a team as you're going to get. Edmonton has had good playoff runs over the last few years, made the conference final a couple years. There's experience on that team. And they're hungry. Yeah, hungry. And now you add Corey Perry, who's won a Stanley Cup, has been to multiple cup finals, has been to multiple conference finals. That guy is a playoff machine.
And they're looking at maybe adding Maroon too.
And they're looking at adding in other guys, which Vancouver's also looking at adding other guys, of course, too. Correct. But you look at that division, and those are two teams that are very playoff experienced. You look at the Canucks; they're not that experienced playoff wise. Mm-hmm. Ian Cole has had some good had deep runs with both Washington and Pittsburgh. Philip Hronek has never really had playoff experience. Quinn Hughes, Besser, Pettersson, Demko, and Miller had a bit of that run with the Canucks during the bubble. Miller had good playoff experience with Tampa and with Tampa Bay and with the Rangers before that. But for the most part, and Teddy Bluger on the Canucks won a cup last year with Vegas. Zadorov had a couple good runs with Colorado and Calgary. But for the most part, you look at that rest of that team, there isn't a lot of playoff experience there. And so that's why I temper my expectations, because on paper, this team is arguably the best team in the league on paper right now, just statistically. But statistics don't always translate into playoffs, right? No. Like, you look at Boston last year. Boston statistically was like the best team ever.
Yeah.
And granted, you could say Linus Ullmark was injured in the playoffs, and he wasn't playing fully healthy. Yeah, and Jeremy Swayman just didn't play that great when he played okay when he was called upon, but the team just didn't play that great around him. And yeah, they should have beat Florida. But statistics don't matter come playoff time. It's a brand new season. When the playoffs hit, it's a brand new season, and you have one opponent for at least a week, maybe 2 weeks. If it goes 7 games, you have one opponent that you were playing for at least 4 games. It's completely different. You lose one game, it's not, oh, well, next game we'll get a couple points.
So let me ask you, Sam. We're praising the Canucks in all the players and all that. Who's the weakest link on the Canucks?
For me, it's Noah Juulsen when he's in the lineup. Juulsen's just not good. He's only in the lineup when like Soucy or somebody's injured, which Soucy unfortunately is injured again because he broke like a finger, so he's out for another few weeks, which sucks. Juulsen's he's not great. He has the occasional good play, but he's not good. He's not. Other than that, probably Tyler Myers. But Myers has looked actually really good this year at points. He's had a couple games where he's his usual self. But for the most part, he's looked really good. That game against Toronto last Saturday, Myers was awesome. Myers played fantastic in that game, to be honest. Those would be the two guys that I'd say are probably your weakest links overall. I look at the forward core, and Kuzmenko could play better, sure, but he has his moments. And other forwards, like, honestly, I don't look at any of the other forwards that we have and go, I don't trust that guy. There isn't really any players that other than Juleson, to be honest, there isn't any other player that I look at and go, I don't trust him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I'm liking a Canadian team's chances this year.
If there's any year to do it, this might be the one.
This should be, with Winnipeg doing what they're doing, with Vancouver doing what they're doing, with the Oilers rising from the ashes like the Phoenix. Yeah, this is the year. This will be definitely. Let's hope, because what is it, 32 years? It's 32 years since the Montreal Canadiens last won the Cup back in
31.
94, I think it was.
It was 93. Yeah. Montreal beat LA in 93. Vancouver went to the final in 94 and lost to the Rangers.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah. So this is looking good for a Canadian team for sure, which would be nice. Let's really
see. Fingers crossed.
For sure, Sammy. All right. Sammy, I think we're going to be wrapping her up pretty quick here.
Get me to my game.
We'll get you to your game, correct? All right, guys. Anyone chiming in tonight? If there's no questions or comments, we are going to move on. I think my final thought for tonight is like, come on, Canada, we got to get this. We got to get a cup. Let's get a cup north of that border. Okay, let's bring it home. And I'm totally gonna, you know what? Any Canadian team that makes it to the final, I don't care who it is, even if it's the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm gonna root for them in that final. If unless they're playing against the Oilers, obviously. Or the Canucks. To be honest, I'd rather see the Canucks win it over Toronto. I
appreciate that.
Well, I would. I mean, Toronto's had a cup. Vancouver's had so many
3 cup final appearances and nothing.
Yeah, so many heartbreaking years for you guys. So I feel for. I have a heart. I do have a heart.
I appreciate it.
Okay, Sammy. A little premature there. I guess this is a little bit of a different setup than I have with Lubed. Usually goes into my subscribe mode there, but that goes into the closing things. So got to change that credit button a little bit. Send us on our way, and then I'll play that little bit of video.
Well, and an adventurous.
You can go to your hockey game.
Okay. Well, an adventurous and exciting week in the National Hockey League this week. Hopefully, we have a little more positivity and happiness moving forward this upcoming week. NHL All-Star Game is this next weekend. So hopefully we can all have some fun watching that, paying attention to that. Should be a good time. For myself, I have no Canucks games to watch this week, so I don't know what I'm going to do with my life.
And I'm just going to also quickly go across, I was going to do this and I forgot to do it, but quickly cross some of the headlines that, other than with all the Canada stuff going on and Oilers stuff, but just some of the stuff that is the headlines going on is... Prieze signed with the Avs. Gallagher got a 5-game suspension. Rangers signed Tippett to an 8-year deal, $40 million. Wild acquired defenseman Butcher from the Penguins. That's all I'm going to say. Let's go, Sam. Go Canucks, go for you.
Yep.
And let's call it a night and enjoy your game, Sam. Those of you that are watching the Canucks game. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, or maybe next week. We don't know. We're going to work out our schedule here, as we do have some scheduling issues. And this is a long enough episode. So let's shut it down, and we'll see you soon, guys. You guys have a great evening.